into the draft. Really quick, for both of you guys, going into the Battleground, based on just what we've seen from these two and the few amount of games that we've had, who do you think is more well-equipped to play this Battleground, more brawl-based?
From what I know is that TheOne are doing exceptionally well for a Chinese team on Sky Temple, most importantly due to the fact that Lucky plays a very strong Falstad. He's sitting at a 100% win rate in the regular season.
Oh yeah.
And we saw that Falstad in the previous sets was doing very nice work for SPT, so maybe that could be an option for them to fall back on.
Yeah, I didn't necessarily expect Sky Temple to be the map that comes out, but I'm curious to see how they're going to play, as in Sky Temple is normally the map where you say, okay, macro game can really get a lot done for you.
Yeah.
When it comes to team fighting, we oftentimes see it around objectives, but more so, I would say, focus on the boss. So that's another aspect. But with Falstad, I mean, as you highlighted, you have the macro play, and you can also use it for control over the boss point. Question is all of a sudden Tyrael, for example, jumping up a bit higher to just cater to the Battleground, even though from these teams we haven't really seen him as much at this tournament.
Well, as we gear up for a second here, LM is thinking about either Tracer ban or a Garrosh ban. Garrosh has gotten to a point where TheOne team is like, all right, maybe we should get rid of him off the table here, as he's been a little bit dominant throughout the weekend.
I like the frown that you have when Tim is thinking about Garrosh being first ban, and he's just like, what?
To be fair, he's been quite annoying for a lot of our teams, and we're going to go with it. Garrosh has been banned out, Maiev as well, Tracer has left up and available, and LM has a choice to move into Genji or Tracer, and they decide to pick up the Genji.
Yeah, take that hero away from Meng. He was such a nuisance to deal with in their previous game, and immediately they're not going to ask twice for that golden gift that was just handed over to them. The infamous Malfurion Tracer combo is just so strong. If you think about it, Malfurion, one of the safest support when it comes to playing with Tracer. He doesn't even have to follow her into the thick of things. He just casts one Q, lands Moonfire after Moonfire, and Tracer's going to have a good time.
Yeah, and I feel this is going to be pretty difficult to beat here. Tracer, in general, is just absolutely fantastic. We've seen Malfurions picked early on the first pick if you didn't want to go into Tracer yourself, just to take that combo away. But right now, I want to see what LM does to just counter Tracer. What's going to be their answer where they say, okay, this is how we're going to deal with this now?
Coach Kendrick, you know what I would say? Pick the Varian.
We have seen Varian picked actually more against Tracer, and that would be something they could do, for sure.
Yeah, you have to make sure you subsidize it with some decent wave clear in your lineup to make sure that you can get the other lane set up, but definitely very possible here. Sadly, Genji isn't one of those wave clear heroes, so we'll have to see if that happens later on. But LM, this is their chance. If they're going to pull anyone out or anything out crazy, they have to right now, because if they lose this match, they're out of the tournament.
As we've also seen at the Western Clash, Diablo is also a fantastic counter to Tracer, at least if Breeze plays it.
Yeah, Psalm that was Psalm, right? I remember. No, that was Fan.
Fan, yeah.
That was Fan. Fan remembers. Shout out to Fan. He remembers.
The funniest thing back then was when I talked to Tempus Storm afterwards, and it was also when you were basically just like 3 versus Diablo and everything. Why did you back off then? And it's like, well, we backed off because we knew if we're trying to chase him down, he's just going to get another one-shot against one of us. We just said, oh, better cut our losses here.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see how well the Diablo's going to fare them this time around. For the second ban round, though, we're going to see potentially something that can shut down a Tracer. I wouldn't even be surprised if we get to see a Hanzo ban, potentially, double Shimada. I mean, the great range of Hanzo, the strong auto-attack damage can sometimes really mess with a Tracer.
It's good on the
Greymane is another hero.
Yeah, even an Uberak.
If you don't want to pick Greymane for yourself, it's definitely something that I would at least consider
that's a good one too.
As a potential ban here.
Yeah, I like the Blaze too. I mean, you no longer have to worry about bunker shenanigans. No longer will targets be able to run away from all that Tracer relentless chasing. Now, basically, do they need to worry about any more enablers? I mean, we saw the Tassadar coming through earlier, but I don't really think it's needed right now in the current meta with putting that much babysitting on the Tracer.
Now I'm thinking about Abathur ban.
That one, would have just loved if they leave Blaze open and then they take Tyrael Blaze as a combo. You have that with Tracer and Malfurion already. There's another damage dealer on the back end there. That would have been a frightening composition, at least from a Western perspective.
I think either team could pick up the Tyrael, even LM on their side if they really want to. And I feel like we're kind of missing out on him a little bit. In our first couple matches, he's banned out, but Tyrael, surprisingly, on day number 1, has been picked as much as I thought he would be.
I'm really curious to see, like, speaking of, you know, European trends and Western trends, that's a target ban right there against Hugo. There we go. Are we going to see it, though?
Yeah, they're going for it.
Bam. Illidank will not be played. He's been put in the bank with a ban.
Yeah, Hugo, of course. For all of you who missed the earlier games and who missed HGC China in general, that is, of course, his primary baby boy. That's the hero he feels most comfortable, and that's the hero even Korean players respect him for. They don't want to deal with all that annoying engaging, right? Tracer, Illidan, who you're going to take care of first, while the other one is going to wreck you later.
You say baby boy, and I just picture Hugo like holding a cloth, like a little baby in there, and you like reveal the cloth, and it's just Illidan yelling hatred, like just so upset the entire time. Like, that's the image I get when you say it's Hugo's baby boy, and I'm like, all right.
I'm glad I could instigate your creativity and your fantasy like that.
You reveal the face.
Hatred. Don't close that.
What happened to you, Tim?
I don't know, man. I don't know. All right, well, third and fourth pick coming in here for TheOne. What are they going to get into? They need their tank. Greymane?
Greymane.
Oh, I thought it was
Wow.
going to be Greymane Tyrael, but they go Greymane and Malthea right away.
That is a lot of aggression still. They might not get the Illidan, but hey, I mean, if you have a Greymane, if you have a Malthea, that's basically the same statement. We want to get in that fight, and we want to take you down very quickly.
It's also, once again, the answer for Diablo here. We had a similar situation in a previous game where Blaze was not taken against Diablo because Malthael was the preferred choice. I'm not sure if it always warrants that you go straight for the percentage damage, but still, Malthael is a good answer here. He can also be pretty devastating then in the late game. He's good on that solo lane now that we have a lot of the solo lanes taken out, Blaze, for example. And Greymane would have been super annoying for Tracer to deal with, and he himself, with Cursed Bullet, of course, can also chunk Diablo down.
And then depending on the talent build and the place they want to go for on that Malthael, a Touch of Death at level 7 is basically an Uther's worst nightmare. If you activate it at the right time, you know, the long cooldowns on Uther's healings can really suffer from that.
LM thinking about what they want to move into. A couple of options available to them. They can move into double tank, maybe pick up that Anubarak. There's also the possibility of an old school one of Lucio, but they decided to move into Tychus and Dahaka.
Yeah, basically just trying to get as many safe picks against all that aggression, against all that Tracer charging as possible. Dahaka has the burrow, Tychus is very stable if he goes for Odin. They're really just trying to die as less as they can.
They have also a global now, and that
Very
is
true.
definitely a pretty good argument when you are on Sky Temple in particular. So a global to be used here that's going to help them going up against Muradin. So he's... This is the one thing. If you have only Muradin as the main tank on the front line, then, I mean, Malthael, of course, can help a little bit with that, but you need to be really careful of that Tychus, because he is going to chunk Muradin down pretty heavily, and the Muradin will have to hop in the back, and who takes over then at the front? That has to be Malthael, and that's not going to be easy for him without Uther or Rhaegar behind him with the panic bot.
Not even the Tychus, the Diablo as well. 13 and 16.
Yeah.
It's like, very terrifying for a Muradin player. So it looks like with this Muradin pickup, we're looking at TheOne, and they're hoping to have a strong early game, making sure to get those temples set up, and then just go from there and have that control and kind of kite backwards. But can they pull it off against LM, who has a composition that, as you mentioned, is pretty safe?
Yeah, it's just so surprising to see how some of the deepest in-meta heroes are just not making any appearances here. No ETC, not even considered.
Yeah.
For the supports, the Rhaegar, not even a consideration as well, and it really shows how narrow these teams are sometimes treating their drafts and their meta prioritization.
I mean, in the situation they're in, I could have even seen Johanna, to be quite frank. You have a blind available that you can use in these situations. You have your Iron Skin too. Normally, I'm not the biggest fan of her in the current meta. More so, she's picked on... we've seen her in Infernal Shrines in the Western scene, and mainly on Tomb for the added wave clear as well. But in the setup that they're running here against Tychus, against Diablo, and the CC, that could have been also an option for them. But be it as it may, TheOne is currently in the lead here, and they have a lot of hopes with the setup. Keep in mind that with Stormbolt potentially, we're also having now Lockdown, since you can go from stun into Malfurion route, and then Greymane can definitely jump on the target. So that is one of the things that could definitely happen here and lead to some kills. And already Muradin adjusting with Third Wind as the level 1 talent, so when he takes damage, he can at least hop out and just take a few seconds in the back line to heal himself up again.
Right, a little bit of an engage going on here onto Malthael. Escapes just barely. Hugo, by the way, playing that Malthael. Very cool to see that he has finally broadened his horizon a little bit. They're now no longer just going for the Illidan, the Sonya, and the Leoric, but also busting out a little bit of Malthael. Another hero that I quickly wanted to brought up actually during the drafting screen, Calder, was Thrall. What an impact he's had in the Western scene with Crash Lightning, but up to this point, completely left out.
I mean, to be fair, Thrall has not seen as much play at the Western Clash as we see now in, let's say, general play, Hero League, and also the general appearance that he has yet. But yeah, he is, of course, a big priority. We have also not really seen any of the Sonya plays. Also at the Western Clash, not as highly represented. Of course, we have not seen the full rework on her yet at the Western Clash, and this is the same patch here, but still something is definitely noteworthy, since we still had, and I feel like a lot of this is also because we didn't have as much Infernal Shrines as we had at the Western Clash.
Yeah, I'm actually very surprised that there's so much prioritization on Sky Temple, especially from the Chinese teams, which traditionally speaking hasn't really been their most favorite of battlegrounds to play on. But it's really cool to see how they're willing to switch things up and how they're willing to play a little bit more of a macro-oriented style on the battleground. Meantime, we see the Siege Giants taken care of, still getting a tower.
And that defense actually got scary for a second. Malfurion got the roots down. The problem here really is with the Diablo and Uther being around. If Diablo gets the charge off and then the flip, the target is just simply dead, because there will be a follow-up stun by Wild Wolf on Uther, and then you have no chance if you're Malfurion or Greymane. So that was definitely a good route that came out of Malfurion, making sure that that engage never happened.
If you look at Uther's build here as well, oftentimes when we see an Uther matched up against a Tracer, we see Q in the meantime hold that thought real quick. Never mind, Meng gets out to safety here. But the classic Q Pew Pew Shockaden build is normally what we like to see a lot against Tracer, constantly harassing them from afar. But here we see Hammer of the Lightbringer reducing the cooldown after completion with every basic attack on the Hammer of Justice.
Yeah, and also, while all this is happening, we have a massive push through the top lane that we're seeing here in front of us, because that really has done solid work. Both of the towers are already down, and they are also taking Diablo under 50% HP just as the temples are about to activate. The fountain is also taken apart. That was actually a very impactful push that we just saw here.
Yeah, and of course, if you put so much pressure onto the Diablo, they're not even trying to contest this. Like, already, they weakened the top lane so much. No defense here, and that is going to be an easy 4.
Exactly, that guarantees fort. So right now, this is a fantastic start into the game for TheOne. Not only will it result in a slight experience lead for them, but it's also a huge positional advantage that they have. And the Chinese team is already starting to invade the temple in the mid lane as well. Dehaka has not made any moves yet. He's still attempting to get experience at the bot lane for his team, pushing out an additional wave. He will, of course, eventually make that move. But it is a fantastic spot that TheOne finds themselves in.
Look at that flank here from Tracer, going deep on that Tyke, is using the recall to get out of harm's way here. And that distraction alone is enough to really drive back LM from the temple platform. Now they're just going to have to wait until Malthael maybe make it into mix, or they're going to just draw back and try to get value elsewhere. But as said, Calder, that's a really solid start from TheOne.
Also, Meridian was trying to slow down any kind of rotation coming from the mid lane, as Malthael was taking the bot lane experience and was hoping to just make sure
the Chinese push meta.
Losing one. But yeah, that's a dead. Well,
that has to be a dead one. Huh?
Not quite, maybe, you know.
The Quantum Spike was used a little earlier. The Tracer ulti.
Yeah, so that was a bit of a... I mean, it was definitely a very nice attempt here, and it also showcased what we said at the beginning of the game, that the Stormbolt leading into roots are always a huge threat to any target. In this case, they might have even been able to get the kill, and they could have locked him down for a bit longer, but it's already a pretty big impact. Also, when we come to talk about damage, we have now the Wizened Duelist taken for Greymane as well on level 7, so he's going to try and stack that up. He needs, of course, to be careful so that he doesn't die here.
Diablo gets slowed, but not enough follow-up damage done just yet. Wizened Duelist proving such a powerhouse, not a sour house, a powerhouse talent when you get those kills, when you get those auto attacks going. And unlike the previous talent version of it, the instance of it, if you die, you only lose half of it, so you no longer have to start all over again.
Exactly, so that makes the talent also a lot less risky than it was before. It's still one of those talents where it's like a risk-reward trade-off, but it's definitely something that we see a lot more common these days. We still have that soaking battle happening between Malthael and Dehaka, and Dehaka has a bit of an advantage since he can use his global to join the team fight. But TheOne is still the team that is heavily heading into the early level 10. And that would be fantastic for them if they can make it happen and therefore get the access to the temple at the bot lane. But let's not forget that we are also in a situation in which we still have that global advantage that could be played eventually by LM.
Yeah, time is definitely a little more on LM's side when it comes to utilizing Dehaka, when it comes to getting as much value from the global shenanigans as possible. However, Quantum Spike at level 10 is going to be so huge because already the pressure on Diablo is real. And the additional percentage damage on Trace's heroic ability is going to make things even worse. I'm particularly interested in seeing Greymane's heroic ability, and there goes the Curse Bullet. Even more tank shredding, even more pressure for Diablo.
I have to admit, I would have been shocked if he would have gone for anything else, because the focus here has to really try and get Diablo down. With Malthael already in the mix, the 10 is there. They're going for the boss after they took the top camp, and that is actually something where their time window is really small. So they need to make sure that they're bursting this one down fast, since Dehaka's at top, and he can, with the global, join that fight easily. So that's a pretty gutsy call with the timing that they use here.
Very big, and Greymane already so low in health. Every ounce of health matters when it comes to sustaining through the fight. Greymane in a lot of trouble. Gets a heal in the last nick of time. Oh, he almost gets out of it, but the boss is lost.
Yeah, boss is stolen, and a death of Diablo is definitely worth the boss here. So TheOne outplaying themselves a little bit with this, especially since at the bot lane it's not only the Siege Giants that are pushing. That camp has already done a lot of damage before the boss even arrived. But they're not even focusing on it. The temple is still at the bottom of the map, and they are not even going down there to deal with the boss. So they are still even though it's an early one, that hasn't scaled heavily yet, they still take a lot of unnecessary damage now.
Also, I'm not really sure how much damage the mercenary camp at the top lane had done in favor of TheOne, but Dehaka's already at the ready, taking care of that.
You're saying already at the ready? He never even joined the fight.
Yeah.
He just stayed there. So it was a 4 versus 5 that they lost the boss to, and this is because the problem is they prioritized the night camp over the boss.
Yeah.
It took it first.
They also weren't really like just baiting. They were fully committed to it. If they had only, baited LM to maybe join the fight and then flip the switch and immediately go ham on them the moment they go in, that could have been a better way to solve it. But as you said, Calder, TheOne basically shooting themselves in their own feet right now.
I mean, I'm going to be honest here, it's a massive throw-out they're currently playing. They were so far ahead, all they had to do is take the night camp and then go down to the bot lane and grab that temple. That was the safest play. If you want to make a boss call, then posture around the boss while you're closing in on 10, and then once that you have the heroic ability, or even before, you go snap for it and take it, and then you can also force that fight. But in the situation they're in right now, the situation is reversed. The structural position is better for LM. They've taken down 2 forts, and they are on even experience. TheOne threw away a massive lead that they had in this game because they got a bit too greedy, got the boss stolen away from them, and Dehaka was providing the additional side soak in the meantime. So definitely a bit of a misplay on TheOne's part.
The only thing that they still have going in their favor in some way, shape, or form is, of course, the slight experience lead. 13 is around the corner. Can they maybe, start something and make something happen this way? We mentioned it in the previous game. Capitalizing on their victories and making plays happen has been their greatest weakness up to this point. And on Sky Temple, I think it's even more important than ever, because if you let too many temples slide through, we can see the phenomenon that we are observing right here. LM taking the lead and actually coming back from what was almost 1.5 level disadvantage.
I mean, it's even more so interesting because we have only seen one single kill, and that was the kill against Diablo as the boss was stolen. Outside of that, it was just the rotational advantages that gave TheOne that level lead. And here comes the Dragon Blade. Nice isolation on Malthael, by the way, but that didn't do too much yet. Diablo is down again. Genji still trying to look for a kill. Meng is still alive, and they are going for Wild Wolf now, and this is going to be an easy kill, as Last Rites is confirming it. Malthael, in the meantime, is also on Genji, and now all of a sudden we are seeing China just being hyper-aggressive here, getting kill after kill, looking for the 4th even. The drag is not coming through from Garnet Devil, but as the camp is open, we see TheOne immediately capitalizing on the triple kill with a quick camp.
Yeah, there was a really strong isolation attempt, but really good positioning there as well by Malthael. His teammates were probably helping him out a little bit, go this way, go that way, so you won't get focused down as quickly. But once again, it is Diablo that initiates the downward spiral for LM. Although he's a tanky beast, or he can be a tanky beast, against so much tank shredding, we brought it up in the draft, he just can't survive that long.
Yeah, and with the CC, this is also something that TheOne is currently trying to address with inevitable end taken on 13. That 13 was, of course, also another advantage that TheOne had during the fight here. Now we are seeing the temple at the top taken by Greymane. down to the bottom of the map, LM is at least claiming some territory and saying, okay, we're going to get one of these objectives. They had the structural advantage, so the situation is not too dire for them yet. And this is the big plus of the composition that we see for LM, that they still have TheOne, who keeps them in the game, and who in the late game could be a big problem to deal with for TheOne.
All right, how much can TheOne do to keep up the experience? So very important. 14 now right for LM, but 16 is so close around the corner for TheOne. They're going to get some pretty important talents there as well. The Executioner is all of a sudden a big thing for the Greymane. We see Murden potentially, of course, with the Stone Skin, depending on how tanky he wants to become. And even for Tracer, you know, the additional damage output is not to be neglected.
They're trying to go for TheOne at the top. Murden was waiting in the shadows for a long time, waiting for his rotation to take him down. But the level 16 talent is what's really important here. As you already mentioned, it is a massive power spike. And it's a fairly big timing window that TheOne has. And with 16 and the aura that they have,
needs to be a big push.
This needs to do some work. So they have an opportunity to maybe even get a kill here if someone moves out a bit too far. And here comes the combo attempt, trying to go straight for the Apocalypse, but also we've seen the stuns removed right away. And last rights with a kill against Diablo. Great play here by Malthael. They're trying to go for a second, and Uther is falling. Great play here by TheOne, and that is going to be a key.
And no main tank anymore, no support left. That is free reign, free territory for any Tracer player. Genji trying to cause a little bit of a distraction here, but they should really focus on the keep. Death timers pre-16 are still very low, so they're probably going to come back in time to defend the core. But if there's one thing that TheOne has done in the past already, is going for crazy core calls with so close to actually advancing onto the next round, they're not taking any unnecessary risks.
Yeah, they also need to send someone back because the bot lane is pushing against them. This is where we had the Siege Giant camp for a long time doing work for LM.
Hey, Calder, boss is up.
Before it goes for keep, they need to deal with it, and that's what Malthael is currently doing. But yeah, you make a good point. The boss is up again, and we know that these teams really love to brawl, so... I mean, at this point, from the perspective of TheOne, you just have to say, okay, boys, let's not throw here.
Exactly. Just wait for the temples to activate. It's 2 temples. That's actually a really good scenario for them. They only need to manage, you know, to take control over 1, and they're actually going to get a nice, solid keep of it, especially in the bottom lane, where previously Mercenary Camp had already taken down and dealt some damage. That's all they need to do, but instead, they're doing a happy little brawling in the middle temple on the middle platform.
TheOne is coming in, turning into a 5 versus 4. Malthael not there yet. The drag is in, and that's a big one, hitting Malfurion here, and he doesn't have his 10 available. He's actually falling before he has any chance of getting the Twilight Dream off. Genji, on the other hand, is also dead, and this could be the exact thing that TheOne needs right now. If they win this fight, they are very likely to win the game.
Diablo ends up falling as well. The Uther is actually next in line. Tychus, although he's in a big Odin, is pressured heavily, and this is a clean team wipe here against LM. Although without the support, they're probably not going to be able to make it all the way to the core. Their health bars are very low, but guess what? Double temple still seems like a good thing to me.
Yeah, definitely. With the support, if Malfurion would have still been alive, they could have gone for core directly, but they are still going to get a lot of value out of the 2 temples here. It was really interesting to see that fight happen because it was the perfect engage on Malfurion. And if he dies first, then you have a good chance there. And he was just 10 seconds away from Twilight Dream being up again. If he gets a Twilight Dream off at any point during that fight, if that's readily available already, then that would have been game. But yeah, that was a good start into the fight, but TheOne still able to turn it around. Question for me is still...
how much health is left on the bottom keep there?
It's
actually healthier than I said it was.
Yeah, with both the temples there, they still won't be able to get a keep. Interesting part is, they also made the choice to not go for the boss because they just were so low in HP and mana.
Yeah, they didn't have the necessary sustain available. They definitely wanted to avoid risking yet another throw, as you said earlier. But here, 20 against 17. But LM, they realize they can no longer win this game in a normal macro way, so they have to go for a Hail Mary. They have to go for a team fight, but that is not the way they wanted to start a fight.
Yeah, no souls, no fun. Diablo is down, and he's down for the count this time. The 20 talent, of course, for TheOne. The Storm talent advantage is also absolutely massive right now. So this is something that is, yeah, it's just making it very, very easy for them here. So right now they want to go for boss, and that boss could end the game, and LM is very well aware of it. That's why they're making such a Hail Mary move, engaging into this with a talent disadvantage and in a 4 versus 5.
Greymane, though, a little bit low. Needs to use all of his mobility available to escape the Genji. He doesn't do so, though. The Divine Shielded Dragon Blade, so powerful. Dehaka escapes as well. Race car online, and this is looking better than expected for LM.
Yeah, so 2 heroes down, and that's actually big kills considering that the 20 talent disadvantage is of course also giving an underdog bonus to LM right now, so they're starting to catch up in experience at least slightly. Yeah. They're still 2 levels behind, so there's still a bit of window of opportunity. And Hugo is currently trying to use that by gaining the remaining shots of the bot lane. There is, of course, a Siege Giant camp that is also pushing with it, so very likely that another keep is falling here.
And that's at least a little something out of it, but every single time the focus on Malfurion is so good. It is so real. And although there are defensive tools available, the Twilight Dream to maybe stop the follow-up combos, the Ice Block, most importantly, we don't really get to see a lot of that.
Yeah, I mean, right now, it's really just a big problem for them to keep him alive, and it's also a positional aspect, of course. You need to be careful of that Dehaka moving in from the side, and Genji and him have coordinated these attacks really well. The problem is, if they die as a result during these battles, it still doesn't help them too much. We have 2 keeps down, and 1 single temple at the top lane is going to activate next. The big problem is that in the meantime, there's still a boss available in the bot lane, so any kind of vision games that could be played could result in the boss being taken, or even if the temple is channeled through and the last keep is taken down, then LM has not a single lane pushing without catapults, so it's still rough. And of course, if there's a stagger death against Dehaka,
that is a disaster.
That's a lights out move right here.
They at least try to use all that distraction that Dehaka caused at the top lane to maybe get the boss, but look at the one. They're trying to maybe make something happen at the top. I don't think they even see that. I don't think they have vision on the boss.
I don't think it matters. You have a double camp now, you just go for core.
Yeah.
You have level 20 advantage, you have a 5 versus 4, you have a double camp with a double spell aura. I mean,
Tracer, Greymane, that's insane sustained damage against the core. But here we go, the one, they're trying to make it happen. A big apocalypse coming in through them. Once again, it is Malfurion who falls. They can't just have Zato die over and over again.
It doesn't matter, the core is so low already and the camp is pushing through. As you said, Greymane is there. They're losing him eventually, but this should still be game. Hugo goes in and they are going to finish this one. Or are they?
No way, no.
3%? Yeah,
yeah,
that's
there we
over.
go.
GG, and